موطني موطني الجلال والجمال والثناء والبهاء في رباك في رباك.
I want to take this moment to give a land acknowledgement. I invite everyone here to take a moment to recognize and honor the original caretakers of the land that we currently reside on. Thank you to the Chinook, Nez Perce, Shasta, Alsea, Siletz, Kalapuya, Molalla, Umatilla, Tillamook, Klamath, Siuslaw, Cowlitz, Cathlamet, Coos, Clatskanie, Cayuse, Sahapton, Tutuni, Coquille, Umpqua, Grand Ronde, Northern Paiute, bands of Chinook and Takelma people for taking care of the earth long before any of us. We hope to honor this heritage and pay our respects to the ancestors, elders in relation to the past, present, and future. We also acknowledge the systemic policies of genocide, relocation, and assimilation that still impact many indigenous families of Turtle Island today. As settlers and guests on these lands, we respect the work of indigenous leaders and families and pledge to make ongoing efforts to recognize their knowledge, creativity, and resilience. Erasure has been and continues to be used as a weapon of genocide against the Native peoples, and today we recognize that Native people are still here and still seeking justice for their tribes and ancestral lands. It is vital we recognize that we will not succeed without acknowledging and undoing the legacy of settler colonialism. That is why we are here today. We recognize the Palestinian struggle from our own country's colonial history. The Palestinians forced into corners of their land during the Nakba brings to mind the millions of Native people forced into reservations of dwindling acreage, both suffering from a lack of access to food and clean water at the hands of the exploitative Israeli and United States governments. As the Israeli military burns down olive groves, we remember the U.S.'s efforts to eradicate Plains Indians by attempting to hunt buffalo into extinction. It is for this reason that it is imperative that we stand here today recognizing the people and land our nation profits off of. As students in the U.S. fighting against colonialism in Palestine, our activism must start with acknowledging the indigenous people whose land we currently occupy. We acknowledge that the liberation of Palestinian and Native Americans are intrinsic to one another. I would like to end the speech by reading a statement called "The Right of Return is Land Back," written by the Indian Collective. It reads, indigenous peoples have ties back to the land, relationships to the plants, animals, rivers, seas, spiritual places, rooting our livelihood, encompassing kinship systems, economies, language, and culture in that land. The right of return and land back are both promises that harbor the same meaning, that we will outlast colonial governments and laws imposed on us and our relatives, and live in right relations back to where we are from. The origins of Zionism are firmly rooted in colonial European ideas of civilization that we find across our own history in North America. Under the British occupation, the population of European Jewish settlers increased, and many of them took on the role of farming kibbutz, or Zionist compounds. The kibbutz and the physical segregation of Palestinians between Israeli military zones, refugee camps, and exile is similar to this country's history of settler colonialism. How land is stolen in Palestine is no different than how land is stolen here. There's a story told by a Palestinian elder, Yaqub Odeh, about his village, Lifta. It is one of the many villages that were invaded and ethnically cleansed during the Nakba, and Yaqub is alive to see his now abandoned village, alive and breathing, with all of its people still barred from returning. 74 years later, Yaqub tells stories of his aunts and uncles pressing olives for olive oil, his mother making bread and cakes in the ovens, and celebrations held in the village plaza. He tells stories of why the fight to save Lifta is connected to the larger struggle for Palestinian liberation and right of return, and of sacrifice to struggle against oppression. This place, once home to hundreds of Palestinian families less than 80 years ago, is now considered a national park. But people like Yaqub are still fighting to return home and organizing for a future where the new generations of Palestinians from Lifta can live dignified lives on their homelands. Thank you.
Thank you for that land acknowledgement. Free, free, free Palestine!
Free, free, free Palestine!
Now we're going to have some speakers talk about the history of the land of Palestine and educate us a bit on the history of Palestinians that have lived in that land for over 70 years. Can I invite Chloe and Cal and Themba up?
Okay, hi, I'm Cal. I'm going to be the first of 3 speakers for this section. Okay, this is not a new conflict. It has been waged for more than 100 years and has been backed by the United States since the creation of Israel in 1949. The history could easily be taught. We demand it be taught in schools, but since that demand has not yet been met, it falls on us to give a brief synopsis of the story. We can provide citations upon request. To start, Zionism, as defined by the Oxford English Dictionary, is a movement for the reestablishment and now the development and protection of a Jewish nation in what is now Israel. According to Dr. Theodore Herzl, who established it as a political organization, the aim of Zionism is to create for the Jewish people a home in Palestine secured by public law. Public law being, in this case, the endorsement of imperialist powers. Following the First World War and the Balfour Proclamation, the British took control of the country of Palestine and established the Mandate there, the Mandate of Palestine, in 1922. Due to the principles of Zionism and the real and ever-present threat of anti-Semitism, socially, culturally, and legally in Europe and beyond, many Jewish settlers and refugees migrated to this area, even more following the horrible atrocities and the inexcusable evils of the Nazi Party in Germany during their rise to power and beyond. A pivotal mark for the Israeli occupation was the Nakba, as mentioned earlier, between 1947 and 1949. Over 750,000 of the 1.9 million Palestinians were made refugees and forcibly displaced from their homelands. Zionist forces took 78% of historic Palestine, ethnically cleansed and destroyed 530 villages and cities, and murdered 15,000 Palestinians in a series of massacres. Zionist paramilitary groups launched a vicious process of ethnic cleansing in the form of large-scale attacks aimed at the mass expulsion of Palestinians from their towns and villages to build the Israeli ethno-state. The British occupation authorities had announced that they would be ending their mandate in Palestine on the eve of May 15, 1948, after announcing the creation of the State of Israel. This is the day that Palestinians recognized the pain, suffering, and ethnic cleansing and atrocious murders committed during the Nakba. Now I'll hand off to the next speaker to continue talking about the Nakba.
However, the Nakba did not start or end in 1948, and the oppression has continued every single day since. During 1967 and the Arab-Israeli War, also known as the Naksa, meaning the setback, Israel occupied the remaining Palestinian territories of East Jerusalem, the West Bank, and Gaza Strip, and continues to occupy them today. While under the UN partition plan, Israel was allocated 55% of the land, today it controls over 85% of historic Palestine. The Naksa has led to the displacement of some 430,000 Palestinians, almost 500,000, half of which have originated from areas occupied in the 1948 Nakba, and thus were twice refugees. Israeli forces used military tactics that violated basic international human rights law and attacks on civilians. Now, over 3 million Palestinians living in the occupied West Bank and East Jerusalem face home demolitions, arbitrary arrests, and displacement. As Israel continues to expand its colonies, the Palestinian movement is restricted by military checkpoints and the separation wall that has obstructed their ability to travel freely and is recognized by Amnesty International as apartheid. The Gaza Strip, where 2 million Palestinians live, has been under Israeli siege for more than a decade, whereby Israel controls their airspace, sea, and borders. It is described by human rights experts as the world's largest open-air prison. Due to the ongoing genocide, 100% of Gazans currently face risk of starvation, exacerbating an already existing human rights crisis under apartheid.
Following October 7th, over 70,000 people have been injured and 30,000 have been killed by the State of Israel. Indiscriminate bombings, famine, prohibition of medical and humanitarian aid have all led to the systematic oppression of Palestinian civilians, whose lives are also being treated disposable by the Western and Israeli news and media outlets. The International Court of Justice ruling brought by South Africa officially recognized the current actions of the Israeli government as genocide. This genocide is not a distant issue. Our nation is funding this. Israel is the largest cumulative beneficiary of United States aid. They received $300 billion. Last month, we passed a Senate bill with over 14 billion going to Israel to commit war crimes. This is why we have the responsibility to show up and show out for the people of Palestine. We're not asking for much. We're not asking for much. We want PPS to be able to educate students on this issue. We want Palestinian voices to be heard.
Thank you so much to our speakers that educated us a bit on the history of the land that belongs to the Palestinians. Now I want to invite Hana up, the creator, the starter of all of this action. Thank you so much, Hana.
Thank you all so much for coming. Let's give it up. I'm here before you to convince you that Palestinian children are like any other child in the world. I'm here to convince you they need support like any other child in the world. I'm here to convince you that Palestinian children should not die. I'm here to convince you that it's not complicated. It's not complicated because all we want is peace. Talk to any Palestinian in Gaza and ask what they want. They will not tell you they want the war to continue. They will not tell you they want to kill Israelis. They want to look at the sky and see raining so they can drink and not bombs falling to kill them. They want their mom and dad back in their arms and for it to go back to the way it was. You can't tell me I'm anti-Semitic. You can't tell me I hate Jews for wanting peace. All everybody wants is peace. Stop killing children is not a controversial statement. I'm scared when I come to school. I'm scared when I wear my kufiya. I'm scared when I say I support the land of watermelons. I'm scared when I tell people I am Palestinian. But I tell people anyway, because when I do, people yell at me, because when I do, my view is not accepted, because Palestinians are seen as animal and terrorists. I do these anyway. I imagine there's someone like me in Gaza right now. She has big dreams. She wants to make a difference in the world. She would do way more than I ever could. But our circumstances are so different. While I'm standing here in peace, she dies in pieces. I stand here because PPS can't look Palestinian children in the eye. I stand here because PPS is still supporting the people who killed 12,300 children. Children, not violent men, innocent children. The most unsafe place in the world to be a child. PPS only cares about the Israeli perspective. PPS is on the oppressor side. This has failed Palestinian students, but has also failed every marginalized student in the district. I don't want to live in a world that decides who gets to live and who dies. I want to live in a world where no life lost is a number, it's a story. A world where every child matters. I'm here to convince you that Palestinian children are like every other child in the world. Tell me now, are you listening?
Yes!
Thank you.
I want to invite Ekansh and Linda to speak a little bit about the demands that we have for our district, for our school board, and they're going to go into the specifics.
Hello, everyone. That sounds terrible. What we want is for the school district to do its job, to teach people. What's the point of learning about calculus and differential equations, or the metaphors in a poem about the beauty of nature, when Palestinians are being butchered in Gaza right now? The journalists in Gaza are dying for the crime of telling the truth. What's your excuse, PPS? Is someone going to kill you for speaking out? Tell the stories of the journalists reporting on the butchering of their own colleagues and say their names. Muhammad Yagi, Ahmed Badir, and Muntazir al-Sawaf. They are but three of many. IDF soldiers killing Israeli hostages, UN aid workers, children. Tell the story of why this all came about. We, the students of PPS, want us and all the others after us to know what's happening in Palestine. Misinformation thrives on ignorance, and ignorance that the school district chooses to perpetuate. We have seen videos of IDF soldiers butchering whole families. We mourn the children who will never see their parents again. We mourn the parent desperately digging through the rubble to see if their son is still alive. I feel helpless to stop it all, but I know this. Everyone, present and future, must learn about what's happening in Gaza, because what we are seeing right now must never be forgotten. How many must die? 100? 30,000? 100,000? 1 million? How many Palestinians must die until it's important enough to speak out? Our school district is complicit in this genocide. For what reason does a school district have to open its coffers so others may bomb schools and butcher children a few thousand miles away? Who do you think we are? Do you think we are heartless, PPS? Do you think we plan on turning a blind eye to your betrayal of basic human decency? Do you think we don't see your money flowing into the hands of war criminals? Silence is the same as complicity, and we, the student body, will tirelessly work against you, PPS, until you implement our demands in full. No suffering we endure can be worse than what the Palestinian people suffer every day, and no action we take will be sufficient until the genocide ends. We, the student body, won't rest until our demands have been implemented. Thank you.
History has a tendency to repeat itself, and out of everyone, educators should know that progress happens when we acknowledge the current genocides, war crimes, and other tragedies happening in our current time. I will never understand why a school atmosphere would censor future leaders from information worthy of making real change. The pain of Palestinians is being ignored because you believe their death is political rather than a humanitarian crisis. We are saddened. We are saddened that PPS has failed to teach students about the last 75 years of occupation, an institutionalized regime of systematic racial oppression. We can only begin to bring peace when we are united, but your acknowledgement of Palestine is necessary, and your silence leaves us divided. The hypocrisy in your statement is clear. October 11th, you mentioned the lost lives of Israelis, but then failed to address the historical context for what happened before October 7th. Settler colonialism, stolen land, mass displacement, and ethnic cleansing. It is white supremacy that allows the suffering of brown children to go unnoticed. As a community, we stand here to demand that you recognize the death of over 30,000 Palestinians and the continuous suffering inflicted by the Israeli state through starvation, bombing, and the compliance of you and other institutions. We stand as PPS students to demand you honor all the lives lost and the truth of what's going on in Gaza. We demand an immediate divestment of companies profiting from the oppression of children. In our government curriculum, you endorse the civil liberties of freedom, but in practice turn around and funnel money to companies that restrict the life of Palestinian children. PPS is complicit in breaching the privacy of Palestinian civilians every day. This leads to an education system that is hypocritical and performative. I've seen through its ties to companies staked on perpetuating systematic oppression through spying on civilians. First, you must immediately divest the Public Employee Retirement Fund from Berkeley Research. Oregon Public Employees Retirement is the biggest investor in Berkeley Research, which provides intrusive surveillance technology to maintain control. The use of espionage not only forces them into a constant state of anxiety, but further enforces tyranny by the Israeli government. Second, you must dissolve your contract with SIH International. Your contract with SIH International must end as they have partnership with HP. HP is another leading surveillance force infringing on the privacy and safety rights of Palestinian citizens. Every person deserves to be free of capitalist colonialism, surveillance, and have moments of solitude and calm. No Palestinian is receiving the basic right currently. How can PPS claim to educate our children about the importance of humanity while being complicit with such companies? This is not controversial. You're already teaching about civil education. Now it's time for you to uphold it. Governments move slowly, but you have the power to act now. We demand you cut ties and cease fire.
I now want to give the stage to Max and Calliope.
Hi, my name is Calliope Ruskin. I'm a Jewish senior at Grant High School, and I want to talk about the difference between anti-Semitism and anti-Zionism. The University of Michigan defines Zionism as a modern movement with the primary goal of creating an ethno-state of exclusively Jewish people. It is imperative to understand that Zionism is driven by the belief that the only solution to anti-Semitism is to condense the remaining Jewish population into their own state. Israel does not and will never solve anti-Semitism. I have seen synagogues shot up and burned down to the ground. I've endured countless of hurtful comments my entire life. Anti-Semitism is not exclusive from the right wing to the left wing. And I am terrified to give this speech because I have never publicly announced my Jewishness, but nevertheless I am here. Jewish people deserve to be safe. We deserve to be able to practice our religion. We deserve a home. But so do Palestinians. What gives Israel the right to colonize and commit genocide in Palestine in the name of their own oppression? Two wrongs can never make a right. So when I say that I am anti-Zionist, I mean I believe that Palestine should be free from the 75-year occupation. When I say that I want a ceasefire, I don't want anyone else to die. My ancestors would be just as appalled as I am to watch and hear and read about the 30,000 Palestinians who have been murdered. White phosphorus and hospital bombings, children starving to death, media censorship. My teachers have taught me how to recognize propaganda, and what PPS sent out in October is teaching students to be compliant in colonization, violence, and war. School board members and administration, hear me, see all of us. We are the next generation. Educate us properly and we will grow up to end wars.
Hello, my name is Max Niedergang, and I'm a Jewish senior at Ida B. Wells High School. I'd like to open with a few lines from a song called Demai by Daniel Kahn. Demai means think in Russian and our weeping in ancient Hebrew. It was originally written in Yiddish, but I'll spare you my butchered pronunciation. I'll read you the translation. I have a dream in my heart. I lift up a flag of peace, but in my dream there stands a wall, full of pain and full of sorrow. At the wall stands a soldier, behind him the green fields. We have built too many borders, inside of the country and inside of the people. The right-wing, colonial, and violent government of modern Israel cannot be further separated from Judaism. In everything I've learned from my religion, traditions, and history, every single thing tells me what Netanyahu's government is doing spits in the face of what it means to be a Jew. Whether religious and learning from the Torah and Tanakh, or secular and learning from our shared morals and history, everything I know about being a Jew tells me to stand up against authoritarianism, to help the downtrodden and oppressed, and to fight the oppressor until we are all free. Netanyahu, you should be ashamed! How dare you push a group of people you define as different into a little box? And then you dare do this, and turn around and declare yourself a representative of a Jewish state. You continually violate and oppress the Palestinian people while simultaneously endangering your own. You do not represent the peaceful Jews running from persecution to settle anew. You reflect the oppressor they were running from. It pains me so much to see a government claiming to represent Judaism committing the same crimes that have been committed against us. It pains me to see the United States government and its leader Joe Biden actively support those crimes under the false pretense of defending Jews. In reality, the U.S. just wants to see a military base in the Middle East maintained no matter the cost in human lives. It hurts to see my own school district rightfully condemn the terrorist attacks of October 7th, but refuse to condemn the horrific and disproportionate response of the Israeli state. Bombing civilians is not and will never be self-defense. PPS, you should be ashamed. The history of that region and the Jewish place within it is undeniably complicated with many factions and many different ideas present within. But the barbaric and violent actions of the Israeli state are not complicated. The solution to the conflict may be complicated and political, but we must all agree it begins with an immediate ceasefire. I would like to take time to thank the teachers who have taken time out of their classes to host discussions about the ongoing conflict, a decision they made on their own, no thanks to PPS. The discussions always bring me to tears. Hearing my classmates talk about their relationship to the conflict, their family members who still live in the region, the bloodshed they constantly hear about, and how it affects them, breaks my heart. Everyone just wants to see this conflict end. Everyone just wants to see the bloodshed stop. These discussions have led to education, but this education is always cut short by time and the demands of class. This education and discussion, where we can come together and understand each other, should not be the rare choice made by a few amazing teachers, but a united campaign of discussion, education, and solidarity. The Jewish people have had a history of constant oppression for our entire existence. It is our duty to show solidarity and support for all other oppressed peoples, and never to commit any of the acts against others that have been committed against us. I cannot tell you what a solution for the conflict will look like, but I know it starts with an immediate ceasefire. No more blood, no more deaths, no more killing, no more hate. We can never go back and fix the wrongs of the past. All we can do is work for a better future together. Thank you.
Today, we gather grounded in our firm belief of the two interconnected pillars of humanity, liberation and solidarity. These concepts are not mere abstract ideals, but are the very essence of what it means to be human. Education is what carves our minds and makes us compassionate, critical thinkers. Yesterday, in your statement, PPS said this was the goal, yet you failed to teach us this in our classrooms. Liberation embodies the struggle for freedom from oppression and injustice. So we ask PPS to stop censoring us and start teaching the injustices you hide. We all stand here together for the same reason, for the liberation of the people of Palestine, Sudan, and the Congo. Our solidarity knows no... Our solidarity knows no bounds. It connects us all from different backgrounds, stories, nationalities, and ideologies. Since the 1948 Nakba, Palestine has been illegally and violently occupied. For the past 20 years, Sudan was the world's largest hunger crisis, and today the millions of people of Sudan have been forgotten. And since 1996, the Congo has been exploited for rubber, ivory, and cobalt. PPS has failed us. They are the reason our peers are ignorant to the injustices. They are the reason so many of us don't know what's happening in the world. You continue to limit our resources. You continue to teach our teachers Western white supremacist biases. You censor us. You resist our change. Now we say enough, and we demand you educate us on the proper history that occurs in our world, from the past, the present, and the future. Free Palestine!
I want to invite Janiya up right now to give a speech. Thank you so much.
I'll stand, I guess. Okay. I'm short as is. Hello, I am a student from Jefferson, and I sometimes meddle in activism. It kind of just happens when you find something like this just so important. It feels like it should be a simple matter of people are dying. I like to take inspiration from activists in the past. Genocide and oppression isn't anything new. And so I want to take reference from an activist I used to know, James Baldwin. And I wrote an open letter to you guys, the protesters. Dear protesters, I first want to acknowledge your bravery and your fight, your ability to see the ability to change. No, I want to commend you for being a part of that change. If you know me, you know I'm a person who didn't come from much. I never realized it when I was younger, but the clothes on my back, the food that I ate, all the things I enjoyed were so close to being taken away every day. It wasn't until everything was taken away from me that I saw I had to make my own life. In that way, I always try to take the opportunities I can. Like this very one in front of me, speaking at a rally and being able to see such a beautiful crowd of activists, but I got to admit I'm a bit nervous, and maybe not for the reasons you think. What makes me nervous is how complex activism has become. Social justice is as hard as it is, but what I mean is it took me so long to be right here. It's almost a privilege to be able to leave school and come here and not worry about anything but the issue at hand. But many people can't just do that. Many people can't just boycott or march. Many aren't raised to do anything but survive. And I find myself placed in an odd spot for encouragement. It shouldn't be hard to stand on a stage and say genocide is bad, more than that horrific. Yet I feel that so many from my community aren't here to hear my words, aren't able to understand my thoughts, and are not truly to fault of their own for their disadvantages. When asked to participate in this event, the walkout and the rally, my biggest fear was my Jefferson family may not come and support me. Would they come and support this cause? Could I have the confidence to speak up if they didn't? I almost felt ashamed to care about what matters scared me when people are dying, losing their homes, losing their families, and I can't so much as speak up. That scares me. That truly makes me nervous. I am also nervous about the media, how my harmless words can go from swords of aid to daggers of spite, how it is easy for people to say this matter is political, when the matter I speak of is life. It's not about war or a fight between religions, but an oppressive force killing senselessly. It is ridiculous that I have to say I don't hate Jews or Israelites. I am just a person who, when they look at their phone, sees pain, sees tragedy, and is disgusted with the massacring of people, and I choose to stand in solidarity with them all the way. What makes me nervous the most is I'm not the only one nervous. And if I don't speak up well enough or loud enough, that my efforts will just be for nothing. That if I don't show support, then that can cause many people not to show support. And we, the scared ones, have to say something the most, because we can. That is our privilege. Because people in Gaza don't have easy access to social media or cameras. They don't have active press or news outlets. Yet I have seen the videos of rubble and blood, distraught people looking for pieces of their home, family, and life in mountains of debris. Fathers search dirt for their children, mothers not knowing if their children are safe, and yet they try and speak up. I realize there's no debate on my stance. I am for Palestine, for everyone affected. I can no longer care for the many forces out of my control. I constantly choose to respect people's opinions on this genocide, this cleansing of people, this purging of citizens, and the collection of land. But in the most important moments, I fail to respect my own. I came to say it's not easy to speak up, to fight, to do real activism. I am young, I am gifted, and I am Black. I know oppression, I promise. But nothing in this country, in this world, comes easy. With all the love in my heart, I say I'm sorry that every day it feels like we are failing Gaza by not saying enough. Even if today does nothing, I know I spoke. I used my voice as for someone who couldn't, and to do that beyond any fear. And if you are here and you are able to be brave, to never give up on things you know for a fact matter, my love and prayers go out to everyone. Thank you for having me. Your voice and opinion matters as much as every life in Palestine matters. Strikingly, Janiya Thompson.
to Janiya for that wonderful speech. Now I'd like to invite Jihad Qutub. He is a coach for the Cleveland youth football team and a parent.
Thank you. Hey, thank you to everyone. Free Palestine!
Palestine!
I didn't come here today to speak. I came here today to show solidarity with the students. I have close proximity to this because I am Palestinian, and my children right here, they're also Portland Public School students. I'm also connected to Portland Public Schools because I am a head coach of the youth football team in Cleveland, and I had to coach through the situation that went through after October 7th, and what struck me was what I heard from Portland Public Schools, which was rightfully to support the Jewish students and Jewish individuals in Portland Public Schools, but to not hear them acknowledge the Arab and Palestinian students who are under attack, who are in danger as students in Portland, and to not hear them acknowledge their fear and their struggle and the pain that they're going through. And to hear it, it's been 5 months now, and not a word from this district where I grew up. I'm a Lincoln High School graduate.
Woo!
I was raised in this neighborhood. I was raised in this area. My dad worked for this public schools, all right? And to see them completely show a blind eye to the pain and the struggle of what's going on, not that far away from us. We act as though Palestine is a million miles away. It's not. Palestine is not just in the Middle East. Palestine is in my heart. Palestine is in my blood. Palestine is in their blood. And it's more than just a war. Please, the word war needs to be struck out of this. This is not a war. This is not a war. Say it like it is. This is a genocide. This is a genocide that has started long before October 7th. This is a genocide that has started since my father, who was part of the Nakba, when he was kicked out of his home and pushed into the desert of Jordan for years. He grew up in Tunisia, but his blood is in Palestine. And I hear the stories, and I hear the struggles from him since I was a little kid. And I know how it felt to be on the outside, to not hear the acknowledgement of my country, the acknowledgement of my people. And I just refuse to have that happen any longer. I'm going to make sure that the education and the knowledge of Palestine is continued forever and ever, because there is only a Palestine. There is only a Palestine. And I want to say one more thing. Teachers, educators, you've been clouded. You've had your mouths quieted. It's time for you to step up. Too often, the children are leading. Too often. It's our job to lead. And too often we are following their lead. I'm seeing all this energy. I'm seeing all this power from everyone over here. And I can't help but notice there are so many others who have more power, who are staying quiet, who are saying nothing, who refuse to put any risk. And I'm putting my risk right there. I put everything out there. We need to stand together. We need to support the young people because they are the generation that are going to lead us out of this occupation, out of this colonialism, out of this destruction, out of this warmongering mentality of what it means to be a country. America does not need to be this way. It does not need to be this way. And it's not going to happen by the old heads in Congress and the old heads in the Senate. It's not going to start with them because they've already shown their colors. They've already shown their face. It's going to start here at this level. With this generation, with my children as the next generation. They're going to lead us out of this. And we need to support them. Educators, adults, support them. Give them the power. Give them the voice. Give them the microphone and let them lead us out of this. Free Palestine!
Thank you so much again to all of our speakers. I want to invite Ms. Kasouf, a teacher at Grant, to speak here in front of all of you.
Right. If you want peace, let me hear you! If you want justice, let me hear you! If you want freedom, safety, and dignity for all of the people of Palestine and Israel, let me hear you! Can we get a huge round of applause for our incredible, courageous organizers? Can you a teacher at Grant High School, and I can't tell you how deeply moved I am seeing all of you here today to fight for justice, equality, and peace. I stand here today full of humility. I know that I do not have all of the answers. People often say that the Israeli-Palestinian conflict is very complicated, and because it's so complicated, we can't weigh in until we have all the answers. Now, I agree that this conflict is complicated, but listen, everything is complicated! Gentrification is complicated! Economics are complicated! The climate crisis is extremely complicated! That's right! There is so much to learn and tease apart in all of this. But let me tell you what is not complicated. It is not complicated that it is wrong to kill 30,000 people with many more trapped beneath the rubble. That's not complicated. It's not complicated that it is wrong to kill more than 12,000 children and orphans, 17,000 others. It's not complicated. It's not complicated that it's wrong to herd Palestinians into Rafah like cattle and then attack them, cut off water, power, food, and medicine to almost 2 million people, bomb hospitals, schools, religious sites, and doom the entire population of Gaza to unspeakable horrors and trauma. That is not complicated. And it's not complicated that it is wrong to enforce a brutal military occupation over Palestinians in Gaza and the West Bank. Deny them the right to vote, the right to move freely, the right to live with human dignity. It's not complicated, it's wrong! And I also know that it's wrong that while my tax dollars fund this genocide, while my country repeatedly vetoes the United Nations Security Council call for a ceasefire, our school district is painfully silent. Boo! PPS declares a commitment to social justice, so why does this commitment stop when it comes to Palestinians? Do their lives not matter? Do they matter less than my life or yours? No! Students, you have a right to learn explanations for the way that the world is, for the violence that you're seeing on your smartphones, and for why people are marching in the streets shouting, "Cease fire now! Cease fire now!" But teachers are afraid to teach about this because we don't know who supports us. I've been teaching about this for the last 2 months, and it's been the most difficult experience of my teaching career. And it's been nothing compared to teachers all over this country who are being doxxed, harassed, and even losing their jobs for advocating for Palestinian human rights. Boo! And let me tell you that it is not only Palestinians and Arabs who suffer from this silence. It is also our precious Jewish students. All over the world, anti-Semitism is exploding alongside Islamophobia. When we fail to teach the truth, to have the hard conversations, students have no tools to distinguish Jewish people from the actions of the Israeli government who falsely claims to act in their names. Boo! We also doom an entire generation to be educated on Instagram and TikTok, which encourages extremism and makes it more and more difficult to recognize our shared humanity. Though this is probably the most controversial issue of our time, especially for the PPS community, I do not believe that it should be so. We are not here today fighting only for Palestinian freedom. We are here today fighting for collective liberation and peace. None of us is free if we are not all free. We are here today to boldly reject the lie that Jewish safety must come at the expense of Palestinian
courage to believe that a better world than this is possible, that where every life is precious and where all people can live in peace, dignity, and safety. Thank you, everyone here, for your commitment to building this better world. You inspire me. Cease fire now! Cease fire now! Free Palestine! Free Palestine! I love you all! Woo!
والهنا والرزاق في هواك